Yeah. Hey, it's Sue in the restricted section. Today I'm doing a book unhaul, which I guess these can kind of be controversial sometimes. I don't know. They're my books and I'll get rid of them if I want to. With the exception of two, which I don't think anyone will blame me for, I have actually read all of these books. They're just ones that didn't really resonate with me, or I just didn't like them, or whatever. I'll tell you the reason when I come to them. So I've got a pretty good stack here, so let's just get going. The first one is one of the two that I haven't read, and that is The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. The reason that I'm getting rid of this one is because it's abridged, and so I'd rather read the unabridged one. I got this for free, I think, off of my high school libraries. Like, they deleted it, so I'll just donate this one somewhere. Next I have The Bone Collector by Jeffrey Deaver. I've actually read this book twice because I read it when I was a teenager, and I used to read books like this a lot back then. I read like crime mystery stuff, and I liked it. It wasn't anything fantastic, but then I read it again last year because it was one of our book club's picks, and since it'd been like almost 10 years since I read it, I figured I should probably, have a refresher. But still felt the same way about it. I mean, it's pretty good if you're into this type of book. It's just not really my jam, exactly. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of it. The next one is Heart of Darkness and The Secret Sharer by Joseph Conrad. I just didn't like this. The Secret Sharer was okay. I didn't think it was anything special, and Heart of Darkness was just really dense, and I felt like it was super racist. And I know that in like a lot of classics do have like racism and sexism and homophobia and whatnot, and it's sort of just a product of their time. But this one was too much for me. It was like too much to look past. So yeah, I didn't like Heart of Darkness at all. Next is the other book that I have not read, and I'm a little embarrassed that I own it, but it's The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks, and I think my cat ate the corner of it, so she doesn't like this book either. Yeah, I don't know why I own this. I don't want to read it, so goodbye, Notebook. Next is this book called The Chronicles of Murder, and it's by Martin Fido. I read this a really long time ago. It's got it's almost like a newspaper inside. There's just so many in here that you don't really learn that much, and if I recall, I think it was just kind of like disorganized and not very well written, so I don't need to hang on to this. Next is one that Megan and I have both talked about quite a lot recently, and that is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. I didn't like it. Just too much overboard with the abuse for one person. And I know that people go through abuse and it's terrible, but it was just like so many like chance things happened to this poor guy that I'm like, how could someone possibly be that unlucky in their life? It's like, were you Hitler in a past life and you're, being punished for it now? I don't know. It was just overboard to the point that I was desensitized to it. So I wasn't even really nearly as like emotionally affected by it as I feel like I should have been, because it was just like, well, of course that happened, so don't want to see this guy's weird face again. Next is perhaps a controversial one, but it's The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. I read this earlier this year, and it was good, but I really disliked the writing style, and I know a lot of people love the writing style, but it just wasn't for me. It took me like 200 pages to even get into the book at all, and I felt like there was these blocks of text throughout that are like set apart, like little notes, and they were just annoying and unnecessary, I thought. And sometimes because the book is told from the perspective of death, which is a cool concept, but sometimes I felt like I didn't like his voice. and he would try to make jokes, and sometimes they felt inappropriate to me. I don't know. So it was a good book, but it just wasn't for me, I think, in this count, because I can definitely understand why people like this book, but I didn't care for it that much. Next is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. I read this many years ago. I actually really liked it at the time. I'm pretty sure I gave it like 4 stars on Goodreads, and it's about a little girl gets murdered, and then the book is told from her perspective as she's like sort of in a limbo state, and so she's like watching her family grieve for her, and also, you know, the police and everyone trying to find the killer. So it was actually really good, but I don't know, it just didn't really resonate with me a lot, and so I don't see myself ever wanting to revisit it. So I thought I'd pass it on to someone else. Yep, all of the Twilight series plus Stephenie Meyer's other book, The Host. I have read all of these, and I enjoyed Twilight at the time when I read it. I was 18 when I read the first book, and then read each of them as they came out. But yeah, looking back now and sort of knowing what I know now about it, I can see the problems with it. I hated the movies, although the movies were fucking terrible. But yeah, I'm not gonna ever read these again. I don't want them anymore. My sister's dog ate part of this one, so I think he knew. He was like, girl, I'm doing you a favor here. Trust me, it's shit. And I'm a dog, so I eat shit. The Host, honestly, I think it was better than Twilight. It wasn't exactly a novel idea, because it's about these aliens come to Earth and they need hosts to survive, so they, you know, start taking over all humans' bodies. And to them, they're peaceful, and humans are violent, and, you know, so they're doing a good thing. But yeah, and then of course there's like a love story and all that. But it was, I liked this book. Like, I don't know, I'd have to reread it to see if it really was good. But at the time, which again, it was like many years ago that I read this, but at the time I actually liked it, and looking back on it now, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't bad, but I don't need to keep it. Next is another perhaps somewhat controversial one, and that's In the Woods by Tana French. A lot of people love this one. It's a murder mystery, which again maybe just isn't my thing. I'm not super into the murder mysteries these days, but I don't know, it's been a long time since I read it. It was several years ago, but at the time, like, I didn't really like the characters. A lot of people say they think the characters are super well developed. I didn't agree with that. I also was I thought the outcome of there's sort of two mysteries going on, and the outcome of one of them I thought was kind of a cop-out. I wasn't really happy with who the murderer ended up being. And then the other one's never resolved, which was the more interesting case to me. So that was kind of disappointing. So I had no desire to read the next book in this Dublin Murder Squad series. So, sorry. Next is another one that I read recently, and it's The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. This is another one that just was kind of okay to me. Buddy read this with Erica from The Perks of Books, which was a lot of fun, but both of us were kind of upset about how this ended. The book was mostly enjoyable. I don't think it was anything special. All in all, the writing was okay. It's a lot of fun because there's so many literary references in it, so that's fun as someone who's an avid reader to see all of that. But the ending just kind of pissed me off because I felt like it was just a cheap shot from the author to like evoke emotion from the reader, and I don't think that it was necessary. But it makes, everyone be like, oh, I cried, so it was a great book. Not always true. Next is Orange is the New Black, My Year in a Women's Prison by Piper Kerman. I read this last year, I think, and it was just okay to me. I think the show's definitely like way dramatized, but the show's definitely more interesting. I don't know, I don't even really remember it that well, so that shows how much it resonated with me. And I gotta admit that I'm really not that into the show either. It's good, I like it, but I don't know, I think I just don't really get excited about TV and movies ever. Like, I'm not going to be binge watching it as soon as it comes out like most people are. I will watch it, the new season, but I'll just do it when I get around to it, and that's generally how I feel about almost any movie or television show, is I'm like, oh, I want to see that sometime. Next is the book The Wednesday Sisters by Meg Waite Clayton. This was a pick for my book club last year. Otherwise, I would never have read this because it's not something I would be interested in. But it follows like five young housewives and mothers who are, it's set in the 60s. And so they're kind of like unsatisfied with their lives. And they decide, like, they meet and become friends, and they decide that they're gonna, like, they form sort of almost like a book club, but it's a writing club instead. So they all start writing together. I don't know, it wasn't very well written, I didn't think, and it also kind of it was kind of like rich white people problems, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they were unsatisfied with their lives, and that was like the beginning, when the feminist movement was first starting, and they did sort of like touch on that, and these women being like, oh, what's all this about? But I don't know, there wasn't that much to it, in my opinion. Nothing that I related to, I guess, because I'm not a housewife, so I don't have any kids. Okay, and the last one is Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan and Casilda Jetha, and it's about the prehistoric origins of modern sex. Yeah, so this is a book that just looks back, and it basically is saying, and it's all the research backing up that humans aren't inherently monogamous. And it was really interesting, actually, and I enjoyed it for the most part. But there was, like, the last chapter was kind of like, the fuck? Because they're talking about basically saying, like, and saying it only in regards to men. Like saying, well, if a man cheats on a woman, then she should just look past it and not ruin the relationship over it because it's just his nature to do that. And I was kind of like, I don't think so. You said in this whole book, you said that both men and women are inherently not monogamous, but yet only men get a free pass for cheating. I don't think so. And also, like, have a little fucking self-control, if you're in a loving relationship that you're happy in, then I think you can resist having sex with your younger secretary, I don't know. I just thought that last part kind of was like really off-putting to me. But most of the book was really interesting, but yeah, I'm gonna pass it on to someone else. So that's all of the books that I'm unhauling. I'm probably gonna go take them to a used bookstore and see if I can trade them in for more books. And what I can't, I'll just donate. So let me know am I donating any of your favorite books here? Like, are you just appalled that I'm getting rid of any of these? Or do you say good riddance? But that's going to be it for me. Stay tuned for Megan's video, which will be up tomorrow. I have no idea what she's going to be doing it on, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. Thanks everyone for watching. You can find myself and Megan other places online down below. And please subscribe if you're not already, and we'll see you next time. Bye.